Everyone. This is Chava from Nettles and Pins, and today I have Robbie Hislop from Scotland on the call. He was my instructor in Scotland when I went to go sheep shearing, which I know everyone's heard all about because I don't shut up about it. We had such a good time. I even went there twice. I don't even know if Robbie's ever seen that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we had a great time, but there was something else that was happening in the shearing course that was beyond just Robbie teaching us shearing. There's so much that you wouldn't even, if you were watching a video on someone shearing a sheep, you're just watching the machine moving and the wool is coming off the sheep. But there's so much more that unless you take a course and actually do it yourself, I don't know if you guys refer to it as the dance, but that's kind of what I see between the shearer and the machine and the sheep and the way you're turning and the way your body is working. And there's so much going on. It's this mind juggling, body pushing. I don't know. I mean, it's like all your senses on fire. So I highly recommend looking into that if anyone is really into this. But now you're going to find out why and what is so special about this man and what he does. Robbie, can you just tell us, I guess, how you got started, first sheep shearing, and then how you went into teaching?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for inviting me on the call. Yeah, where did I start? Well, my father was a sheep shearer. So he learned when he went out to New Zealand. He went there when he was 18. Back in those days, they were introducing people to come from the UK to Australia and New Zealand. So he chose New Zealand. And they went, it was called the £10 palm. So it cost them £10 and they went in a boat and cruised over, how long it took, 6 weeks or something. And he just was on a list when he got off the boat as a shepherd, and he ended up working as a shepherd in New Zealand and the big stations out there. So he realised that these shearers were coming in, machine shearers, relatively new, and he quite liked the idea of it. So he was lucky enough to get on a sheep shearing course out there, and he was taught by Godfrey Bowen and Ivan Bowen, and that's still the technique that we use today, known as the Bowen technique. So he got a little bit of a bonus. He stayed on with Ivan, I think, and shore his sheep in the farm. So he got a bit extra tuition there, him and an Irish guy. And then he came back here 3 years later with his machine and started shearing the sheep here. And he was not one of the first. There's a few guys that were first, but he was it became a lifestyle for him. So obviously we followed in his footsteps, me and my brother. Any opportunity in the summer, we went out as kids. We used to get home from school, ask Mum, where's Dad? Which farm's he at? And we'd jump on our bikes and we'd cycle out. We could be 5 miles away to wherever he was shearing and help for the rest of the day, pushing up sheep and just taking the wool away. And yeah, enjoyed it. We loved it. So from there, we progressed on to shearing.
And then when did you go from that to teaching?
It took an injury really before I went into teaching. So it was several years later. You're probably looking at 15 years from when I actually started shearing before I started teaching anybody. And I had carpal tunnel, so I had to get an operation, carpal tunnel syndrome on my wrists. And it just slowed me down a little bit, made me think a bit more. And then I started teaching for a company here in the UK, and after a few years I broke off and started doing it myself, pretty much myself and a couple of friends, which helped me instruct. And it's just grown. Just since then, it's grown into a business of teaching people to shear sheep. And now I'm getting about Europe and other areas as well. So it's a lifestyle for me, and it was a lifestyle before shearing. We used to travel around shearing around parts of Europe and New Zealand and Australia. So it's a little chance to get back into that traveling as well and teaching people. It's great.
Wow, right. You were just in Europe or something. No, Spain, or where you went?
Yeah, we're in Spain, and then we a quick 2 days home and then on a plane out to Sweden and I did a really good course out there and shore some sheep as well. So it was I had not been there before, so it was good fun. Yeah, and
Wow.
hopefully I've helped some people along the way.
Yeah. How did they hear about you? Do you know?
Just through the internet. Yeah, they've just been watching the videos and seeing that we're helping people and teaching people, and just got in touch and thought, yeah, come and give us a couple of days and take it from there.
Was that like hard to uh, get people to come out and start taking classes, or did it just kind of happen?
Um, overseas, they're probably, when I'm going to another country, they're really looking at shearers. But here we're doing complete beginners. You know, people have maybe worked with sheep or interested in the job, and we take it right through every level. And we will do that in the future in other countries as well, introducing people to the world of sheep shearing, and then hopefully progressing on from there. We go to a really high level. As I said, when you're in the game, you can't see the game. So everybody's got a coach. You know, tennis players have a coach, boxers have a coach. So even when you're a top-notch shearer, it sometimes pays just for somebody to really study you, and I mean really study you. When we're teaching somebody that's beginning, it's actually in a way easier for us, because we can just say, that's wrong, that's not correct, you need to move your foot there, your balance here, you need to do this with your hand. And when you're teaching those top guys or just trying to help them, you really need to study them for a little while just to get things right. So it's like, imagine trying to watch a tennis player serve or something like that, a top tennis player. His serve's probably not, maybe you're going to have to watch it a few times and then pick up what he's doing wrong. Whereas like somebody beginning serving, it'll be, that's wrong, that, you know, you'll get it all from the start, all the basics. So we like the mixture. We like the variety of introducing people, complete beginners courses, and we also like teaching people that have goals at a high level as well. So
So
yeah.
when you say high level, that means like people who are shearing hundreds of sheep a day because this is like a major job for them. But there's also the competition. People go and actually it's a sport, right?
Yeah, people do use it as a sport, and I mean, really, if you're looking at the guys that take it really seriously, they're as serious as Olympic athletes. They eat, breathe, sleep, you know, how to get good at winning that certain competition. So it's quite an exciting thing to be a part of. But a lot of guys are just that come in the higher courses with us are more involved in how to get it easier. They've got a certain stage in their life, how to get it easier, how to get something quicker, something just where the sheep's not feeling quite right. And I mean, people have been in the course that have done 500 sheep in one day, and they're still coming to see if they can improve.
Wow.
So it's good. It's quite nice for our ego when when people of that level come along to learn something. Yeah.
Amazing.
But the real, when we're going back to sort of the beginners, we're trying to create an understanding and an environment of belief, because there's so much thought into thinking, can I do this? So if we can bring people in a couple of days to give them a good taster and try and get them going round the sheep and realizing you can't be just strong all the time, you have to move in a certain way and balance in a way, as you know, then that it creates belief. And if people believe in themselves, then they'll carry on doing the job.
Right. So, right. So when you're bent over all day long shearing these sheep, like I guess it would help the positioning, it would help your back in the end, right? And not just getting in the right position, but actually saving your muscles so that you can continue.
Exactly. There's certain positions we can get in that does save that energy in the muscles and the joints and the hip joints. But we still, if you're doing it every day, it's like, like if you went running and you're running along like a marathon, you're still going to be extremely sore, even if you have got a great running technique or style. So there is an element of fitness which is good to get to save all that pain. And there's also then your fitness in your joints. You could maybe do some things outside shearing, certain sort of strengthening and stretching techniques to help. But if the sheep's not fighting you, you're not going to use as much energy.
Right. What do you do for off season? I mean, how many months a year do you shear? And then there's all these months that you don't.
Yeah, so some guys have different jobs as a shearer. So they're doing sort of like mid-May, June, July, maybe a little bit in August, in the UK. And then a lot of them will go abroad. They'll go to Norway or even to New Zealand at this time of year. And it's sort of filling their year just traveling around shearing sheep. I used to do that when I was younger in my 20s before children came along. But now I'm managing to fill it most of the year just teaching as they shear at different times of year in different countries.
And then if you're not shearing on those months, what do you do to keep your body in shape? Like,
Yeah, just
or do you just let it rest?
the thing about it doesn't take long for you not to become unfit in shearing. You're only looking at 2 or 3 weeks. You could have be shearing will make you shearing fit. If you start shearing, you'll get fit to shearing. So then you could stop 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're probably back to square one. So it pays just to keep active, keep the back moving. There is certain exercises that you could do to make sure you're flexing the spine and putting a bit of strain on it here so it doesn't the muscles stay, connected if you like.
Right. And do you have to have a special diet, or is this an individual thing? Like for
Uh,
energy, I'm just thinking for the energy and how much we're sweating all day.
well, yes, we're sort of going. Things were kept simple. I mean, I was lucky when I went to New Zealand. We actually had our own cook with us. I worked for the Tahuyas. They were called Dean Tahuya. Took us on as a young learner, and you learn very quickly about hydration. And because
Okay.
you had your cook, there was